Sony began their press conference at E3 by unveiling a game that I was pretty excited about because it's made by people that made Indigo Prophecy, also known as Fahrenheit to those in the PAL regions, and is also made by people that made Heavy Rain, which Heavy Rain I like quite a bit. Most people might be shocked because it's like, but you hate QuickTime events. No, I hate QuickTime events when they're put in because they're too fucking lazy to be able to make a sequence within that game, but an entire game that's built from the ground up about them, kind of like Shenmue, yes, I'm more than accepting of them. And, well, Heavy Rain is all about that, and as well, it's all about story. Now, when they were showing off Beyond, the only thing that kind of bothered me about the entire presentation was the fact it was very, very, very slow paced. And whenever you're really trying to grab people's attention, that's kind of hard to go about whenever you're just showing off nothing but story and none of the gameplay elements, and especially when you're just sitting in on one portion of the story, which is, you know, probably one of the most important ones because you really get to see the main character suddenly just kind of go apeshit and use her telekinesis, and then a bunch of SWAT team members show up, so it's like, intrigue, mystery, and then a whole bunch of fucking action scenes just followed suit out of nowhere. But the thing is, ultimately what I'm going to be expecting from this is a story that's going to have tons of twists, tons of turns, and tons of endings. As well as it's going to be a very interactive world that you're going to be walking around in, and I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of mystery in it. So that's something that I'm going to be looking forward to because, like I said, I really like the past two games that they made, so this, I highly doubt it's going to be any different, but it is something that I'm going to be pretty interested in, despite the fact that it isn't really heavy on gameplay. But if you're anybody like me and you're really into story, because I mean, well, my favorite genre is RPGs for a reason, then something like this will definitely be able to go and grab your attention, despite the fact that you don't get levels and can't grind and beat shit out of dragons. Still cool. So they showed off PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale, which a lot of people were just like, they really stuck with that name, and the name is fucking ludicrously long, and it's something I would like to see them change up, but, you know, whatever, gonna stick with it, gonna stick with it. The thing that everybody really cared about was seeing this, the actual gameplay, so they had 4 people come out. 2 people were playing on PlayStation 3, 2 people were playing on Vita, so they were doing cross-platform. This was something I had to go and applaud them for, because I was just like, go you! You're actually showing off cross-platforming. That's pretty awesome, and that made me pretty happy because it looked like it was relatively seamless. Now, the thing about it was, the gameplay itself, I heard from various people saying, it looked pretty slow. To me, it looked like it was about on par with Super Smash Bros. So that I thought was pretty decent. I didn't think it was extremely slow. But one of the major downsides to it was because they were just going and presenting the game to you and it's a fresh new IP from Sony, is you were having trouble going and trying to look any one area. Because you have 4 characters on screen doing a whole bunch of shit. So I had to actually watch that several times through to see everything that each individual character was doing. And it was kind of funny because I had one dude, he was there and he was doing commentary for it the entire time. He wasn't very good at commentary, but it was still relatively amusing that he's doing it like an announcer for some kind of sports program or fucking wrestling or some shit like that. I just want to hear, Stone Cold! Stone Cold! By God, Stone Cold! And the Stunner! But, you know, that didn't actually happen. Would have been funny, just bring in fucking good old Jim Ross. But, anyway, so, with wrestling aside, they were showing this off, and the one thing that came to mind was Sweet Tooth uses level 3 super, because as you're playing the game, you accumulate a super bar, which you can get level 1, level 2, and level 3 super. It seems like level 3 supers are absurdly overpowered. Like, absurdly. It didn't even take him a really long time to go and build it up, but when he did it, he got like, what, 4 or 5 kills out of it? I was just like, damn! And the weird thing about it is, Sweet Tooth didn't even win. It was Fat Princess who won. And I didn't even think that because I thought Fat Princess was doing bad, but that also kind of goes with the fact that it was hard to really keep track of what was going on through the entirety of the gameplay footage because you're looking there, then looking there, and looking there. And whenever they did bring this all to a close, when they announced 2 characters that were going to be in the game and also available on the floor for everybody else who was attending E3 to be able to play as, and that was Nathan Drake from Uncharted, which was a no-brainer, but the one that caught me off guard and many people there was a Big Daddy from Bioshock. Though the thing is, I think Little Sister might be there. I wouldn't be very surprised having both characters there. The thing that I'm going to be interested in is, since all the stages within the game kind of, you know, the background and the foreground are 2 different stages that they kind of combine together. I want to see exactly what they try bringing forth with Uncharted and with Bioshock, especially Bioshock. That is my interest most. Most. Lisping, are we? No, that does have my interest most, and it makes me wonder, are they going to bring in any elements from Bioshock Infinite, you know, because that got pushed way fucking back. It would be kind of interesting to see that. So, regardless, the game, I mean, it looks okay gameplay-wise, but I would have to get my hands on it to really give it a go and see exactly how it performs. But overall, it looks decent, but it didn't exactly wow me whatsoever. It just looks, right now it looks about average, I would say. One thing that I was really surprised by whenever they brought it out was the Wonder Book. So the Wonder Book, pretty much this little book, you unfold it, you have it sitting down in front of you, and PlayStation 3 camera, you'll have looking down at you and at the book, and it's kind of like an interactive storybook. Like, imagine the most intense pop-up book ever made. And then they went and said, beyond the fact that this could go into a whole bunch of stories, we're also going to have some Harry Potter-esque stuff going on where it's kind of like you're learning magic spells from the Harry Potter universe. I thought that concept was kind of interesting. But they dragged on this entire segment way too fucking long. I mean, it was at least 3 to 4 times longer than it really should have been. And the one thing I want to go and point out, I don't know if anybody else notices this, but the PlayStation 3 camera has some of the worst fucking quality as far as the camera goes. So you're going to have really grainy, shitty looking camera footage that's going to be of you with your little book. And then you're going to have graphics that are in 1080p popping up in front of it. So you're going to have something that looks like an eyesore and something that looks graphically appealing over top one another. And it's not going to make any fucking sense. It's not going to blend together well. And it's not going to give you a feeling of immersion that, you know, this is really happening in front of me. Wow, it's as if it's... No. It totally fucks up. This thing, if it's going to succeed, they need to go and bundle this with a brand new camera or allow for third-party, you know, webcams to be hooked up to it. Like, I have a really nice Logitech webcam, and records in full 1080p, absolutely fucking nice, phenomenal little camera. Microsoft makes some nice web cameras as well. If you could plug in one of those, that would be really bitchin', but just the little PS3 camera? No, this thing's fucking garbage. Sony needs to go back to the drawing board and put out another one because the quality looks like shit. The thing is, as much as I want to say that this is a really awesome item for them to go and toss out there, because it is a novel experience, it's really different, it's something that would grab my interest, but I feel like this is going to pretty much lay by the wayside because third-party developers aren't going to jump on board on it. Anytime that you bring out a peripheral for any kind of console, and you need third-party developers to go and specifically make titles for it, that's a big-time gamble for them because not only do you have to own the console, but you then have to go and get that particular peripheral, and then you have to go and buy a game for it. So that's a whole lot to expect from one consumer. Now, if they make bundles and everything for it, which they didn't announce a bundle with it, which I was kind of surprised because they announced a whole bunch of other bundles that are going to be coming with games specifically for the PS3 and the Vita, but they didn't announce one for this, so I thought that was kind of weird. But again, you know, unless they make a bundle, I think it's going to be a hard sell, and harder for third-party developers to really want to jump on board with it. So, to me, I think that something like this, as neat of an idea as it isn't going to go really far. So, if it does, you know, awesome. I'm very happy because I can see this being really interesting, especially for little kids. Like, if you can go and get something like, you know, a bunch of pop-up books, like, imagine you download a book off of Amazon, okay? I mean, you already got the Amazon Video app, so imagine if you could go download books, specific books, from Amazon.com, put them on there, and it would read out loud and everything. That'd be really cool. Have little interactive parts with it. You can go into background, mess with the characters, stuff like that. I think something like that would be really cool for children. But, you know, outside of that, the only thing I can think of for me specifically, if they want to grab my attention, is if they said, okay, DC and Marvel, they went and signed on, and they're going to specifically make a whole bunch of really badass comic books just for this, or adapt, you know, pre-existing comics or graphic novels or collections or anything like that and put them on there. That would grab my attention, but I feel kind of lame sitting down in front of my PS3 like, oh boy, Batman! Oh no, there he goes! Yeah, I'd feel fucking retarded, but admittedly, it would at least grab my attention, but as it stands right now, it's just not something I'm too interested in until they show off a little bit more. One thing that I was kind of shocked and severely disappointed by was throughout the entirety of their conference, they did not announce a price drop for the Vita. At all. I thought that was absolutely fucking stupid. I really did. Considering the fact that the Vita's already having a lot of trouble selling overseas, I mean big time overseas, and it just in general isn't grabbing the attention of gamers because they're saying pretty much all the same thing, doesn't have enough games. It's too expensive. Okay, those are two things that are constantly being brought up. Well, they could have announced a price drop and at least cured one of those problems. Did they? No. It's still an extremely expensive gaming device, and especially whenever the 3DS, which is much more affordable, is out on the market, and I mean absolutely swallowing up sales left and right, and then also take into account that it's competing against the Android market, it's competing against the Windows Phone market, it's competing against the iPhone market and the iTunes market. Okay, it's competing, well, I can't say anything competes with BlackBerry because that's just silly. Anyway, I know somebody's going to be like, I have a BlackBerry, how dare you say... I don't know anybody else has one. I think I'm just going to get rid of it and just get an Android phone at the end. But anyhow, so it's competing against all those devices. The fact that there was no price drop, I thought was a very, very big time missed opportunity and something that they could have capitalized big on. And I assure you 100% if they would have went and matched Nintendo's price right now, you would have heard a thunderous fucking applause, and there have been tons of people saying, okay, I'll pick one up right now. Even despite some of the criticism that the handheld has received, you know, the fact that you can't pop the fucking battery out and replace it. Boo! Anyhow, I still want to get one, but at its current price point, it's a hard sell even for me. So, yeah, they really should have announced that because it would have helped. God of War 4 was finally showed off. So we don't have to just go and think about the iffy could possibly be good multiplayer, which I already talked about before. We finally got, you know, the meat on the bones of the one-player campaign, something I was very excited to see. So Kratos gets dropped right down in the middle of a whole bunch of enemies and does his thing. One of the interesting things is that randomly there's weapons about, not something that he earned specifically, like, you know, a weapon of mass destruction and is like some legendary item that you get and you can equip and, you know, go and select at any time that you want. No, these are items that are just laying around. So he's grabbing them, he gets a different kind of sword, he gets a spear and everything, and I thought this was interesting because I was just like, that's pretty cool. If they have weapons just laying around everywhere, kind of makes me think of Bayonetta, because in Bayonetta you can do that exact same thing, and I always thought that was pretty nifty. But regardless, this looked pretty damn nice. Now, the one thing that I did get to see was he has some ability, whether it's an artifact that you acquire prior to the events that they showed within the gameplay footage that they were showing off in E3, or not, it remains to be seen, but he does something that's similar to the game Singularity, which if you have not checked out Singularity, get the game. Seriously. It's so underlooked, I don't understand why. It's such a good game, but regardless, Singularity aside, you can go, you take your little item out, and it's like green glowing bullshit. I command you! Undo all that fuckery that happened! And it's like, okie dokie, I'll do that. It's like, imagine the Transformers sound. It's like, so, you know, there's some areas that were destroyed by enemies, and they went and they were rebuilt, so then Kratos could go and continue about his way. I'm sure that this is going to be implemented all throughout the game. You know, there'll be tons of secret areas that you can go and access only by using this. So that was an interesting little element, but the one thing that was kind of confusing, and I thought this was weird, is it me, or did it seem like very early on in it, it just didn't seem that violent? And for a God of War game, you know, it's kind of shocking. I was like, they're not toning down the violence. How dare you! You don't tone down the violence of my God of War game. Oh no, I slap bitches who tone down my God of War games. Harumph. Sounds. But I was just like, huh, that's kind of weird. But then eventually, you know, you start getting some of the bigger kills off. And I was like, oh, okay, there we go. Like, the one enemy that was a big elephant absolutely gored this one dude through the fucking body to his side. I was like, okay, there we go. That's what I like to see. I like to see my violence in God of War. And then Kratos just splits the fucking dude's wig open. Like, his skull just, right down inside his brain just fucking exploded. I was just like, yeah. I was really hoping that it would get stabbed and blood would gush everywhere, but that's just me. Maybe that's a little overkill, but, you know. Violence! Makes you crazy. So, they had showed that off, and the gameplay looked really cool. They also had this thing with, like, these gigantic tentacles. I don't know if it was just, like, a gigantic octopus or kraken. I don't know what the fuck it was really supposed to be. Like, some gigantic sea monster kept on fucking with Kratos throughout the entirety of the demo, and it's just like, tentacle rape, you want this shit? I know you've seen hentai, fucking stick it right up your pooper. You want that poop? Shoot fucking ahoy, that's where my arms are gonna be going. It's just like, you see, this is your butthole. No longer tight. No longer workaholics tight. Went from this to this. Oh yeah. But, you know, Kratos, he was dealing with that shit pretty cool. And at the very end of the demo, it's Kratos saying, oh, you know what, I fucking had it with you, diving right off into the ocean. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a whole bunch of underwater segments. Hope they don't suck, that's all I can say. But regardless, considering the fact that, you know, a lot of people are just like, God of War, I'm going to buy it no matter what. You know, I'm always just like, will it be good? Will it be good? They could always fuck up, but no, this all looked exactly how I expected. It looked like God of War. I'm hoping to see more from it, see if they have any new gameplay elements that they put in. And, oh, one thing that I got to see and I thought was kind of interesting is, normally, you know, whenever an enemy is, like, taking a whole bunch of damage and little things glowing above their head so you can go up and do your kill to them, well, it seemed like it happened a lot faster. Didn't it? Like, at least I noticed, it seemed like the kills happened a lot faster. Instead of taking a little bit more time, it seemed like they were much more instantaneous, like you were just taking a swing. So, enemy was just sitting there stunned, and it's just like, dead anyway, and just continuing forward. That I was pretty happy about. You know, it didn't focus on that one individual kill that long, and it kept the battle a lot more fluid. So that's something I found to be a very welcome addition, and kept everything much more fast-paced, you know, the way that it should be. So, yeah, God of War 4, very fucking excited, and can't wait to see more. So, yay! Is it me, or did it just seem like they just didn't talk about the Vita, like, almost like, it seemed like they just didn't care, like, the Vita, oh, that's an afterthought. You know, it was just really weird to think about, because the Vita didn't come up really at all. I understand it did, you know, with the entire, like, Assassin's Creed thing, and that was pretty cool looking and everything. I did enjoy that aspect of it, but I was just like, where's some more exclusive titles, some more first-party stuff, you know? And like I said, where the fuck was that price drop? I don't understand them. They were talking about apps and shit, but I don't really give a fuck about apps. I go and watch E3 to see what games are coming out, what new peripherals you're bringing out, what new consoles you're bringing out. I don't give a fuck about all your goofy bullshit. I mainly just want to see games. Like, 80% of the reason why I watch E3 is for games. And they were like, games? Vita? Vita games? What? Well, I gotta go. I have a meeting catch, and it's like, you weren't even looking at a watch, and they're like, whoop, 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 whoop. And they go and they run away, and it's just like, you fucking bastard. So it kind of bummed me out. Maybe they're going to be showing off more stuff on the floor, because I mean, this is only day 2 of E3, so I can imagine that there is going to be more shown off by the third-party developers. I'm sure Sony probably has a couple tricks up their sleeve. They're like, oh, you want to see some games? Got some up there, motherfucker. Complaining now? Don't hear you saying shit! Oh, saving the best for last. And speaking of last, it's The Last of Us. Holy shit balls, was this fucking amazing looking. I was like, Last of Us, hands down, was the most impressive thing that Sony had showed off, and I can understand, again, why they left it for last, similar to what Ubisoft did and everything, showing off their game last. This was just, it absolutely fucking floored me. I was just like, oh, I'm getting this. Day fucking 1, sure, I'll show up, I'll get it, why not? So, Last of Us, you know, they showed, and you're sneaking about and everything, and you're just like, oh shit. And the thing that I think is cool about this is, you know, it's not like a typical, like, waist high wall, sneak about shooting game. You know, this is really all about survival. You're not given a whole shitload of weapons, you're not given a whole shitload of ammo, you don't have a whole bunch of armor on you, you don't have a bunch of troops to be able to command and have you help them and shit like that. You're literally left fending for yourself in a really fucked up environment. It seriously looks like the entire city itself has pretty much been abandoned for hundreds of years. And it looks like as if, like, you know, humanity is pretty much gone. But I thought this was a really cool setting. You're just going, you're climbing up over everything and looking around, and if you see or hear enemies, you have to go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And that's how you should feel all the time, is utter dread whenever there's an enemy about. I would like when just the random fucking nobody NPC enemies, okay? The random nobodies, when they're walking around, that they can pose just as much of a threat as somebody that's a sub-boss or even like a full-fledged boss. Or even like the heavily armored enemies that occur way down at the end of most games. But no, I'm liking the fact that everybody could potentially go and murder the shit out of you. That made me pretty happy. And everybody that you kill, you have to go and really, like, do you have any weapons, ammo, items, anything? Okay, cool. And that's what it should be like, you know, in something that's like a post-apocalyptic style setting, which this is to a certain degree, you know, you should be fending for yourself, and you have a person with you, the girl that's with you. The thing that kept going through my head was, Oh god, stupid AI. No, no, no. I talked about Sheva being retarded yesterday, whenever I was talking about Resident Evil 6 and some other stuff, and I was just like, I can't deal with another stupid AI character running around be like, herp-a-derp! Is that enemies you're trying to avoid? Let me go! Hey! You died. Game over. Lol, 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 lol. It's like, I don't want to fucking deal with that. I do not need a fucking brain-dead retard running around, getting my ass found, getting my ass murked, killed, stabbed, fucking gutted, anything. I don't fucking need that. But, you know, it was pretty cool because it turned out she's not retarded. She was pretty fucking helpful. So you're fending off enemies and everything, and you're like, oh shit, this is gonna be pretty tough. She just launches like a fucking brick or some shit. I forget what it was. We'll just call it a brick for now, but launches a fucking weapon at the enemy and fucks his day up. I was like, yes, alright, this fucking bitch has it going on. Alrighty then. This is good stuff. That makes me pretty damn happy, but it continued forward. You know, you're catching enemies on fire left and right. I was talking about people being caught on fire yesterday, so I'm talking about it again here, and it was just funny seeing them run around like, and they just catch on fire, and it's like, that's fucking cool. And the fact that you're using stealth a whole lot of times instead of just running into a place, guns blazing, because, you know, like in every other fucking action game, it's like, oh, enemies! Over there! I don't need to worry about anything! Bang, 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 bang! And it's just, you know, I'm glad that they're taking the route of surviving, okay? Sure, it doesn't have the horror aspect, but this is all about survival, and that makes me really happy, and this game just looks so fucking fun. Seriously. The best game that they showed off, hands down. Really want to get my hands on it and play it. I know many of you have something to say about it because lots of people are just like booming in conversations about this. So I want to know, how do you feel about Sony's press conference overall as a whole? You know, I understand some of you might be like, I didn't like it, oh, I loved it, and things like that, but how do you feel about some of the games I went over, some of the games that I may not have gone over? You know, do you give them a good grade? Whatever the case is, you can share your thoughts in that big box down below where you can go and type a whole bunch of characters and it tells you, you know, you type too many. Now you have to go and say, alright, continued from before. You know, or you want to make a video response, like me, or unless you already made one, then you can just make a video response to this. Whatever the fucking case is, it doesn't matter. We're talking about E3 2012 Sony! So, yes. So, we got to dabble a little bit in the PlayStation 3, we got to dabble a little bit in the Vita. So, what are your thoughts and views? Shared some of mine. So, I will conclude this, like always. Nerds, nerdettes, and gamers. Game the fuck